What's going on, guys? It's Tom. I'm back with another video. On this video, I wanted to kind of talk about the pros and cons of renting either an apartment or a house, either furnished or unfurnished. Okay. In my opinion, and let's just start with like apartments or condos, right? I think it's a great idea, especially if you're just coming here to move. You're just coming here to live for the first time. You're moving here to live for the first time, okay? Even if you've been here before, visiting, I've been here like me, 5 times I was here before I came here to live. But I'll tell you what, nothing is the same as living here. Even if you've been here, for like a month or 2 months or 3 months, even on any one trip in the past, and you think you know it all, you think you can, you know how great it is and everything's going to be fine and all that. It's a lot different when you're living here. And that's not just here in the Philippines, but that's anywhere you go, any other country, or even probably in a different state. Like if you're within the United States and you're going from one state to another, because you think, oh, that's a great state, I want to live there instead of here where I'm living now. It's going to be a lot different, and you'll know, you'll experience the differences and all that when you're there for a while, not, you know what I mean? After a couple of years, especially, you'll be like, oh, okay. So anyway, so I wanted to just talk about this. Now, in my opinion, especially with a condo or an apartment, if at all possible, get a furnished apartment, like fully furnished. Because here in the Philippines, they might say furnished, but sometimes it's just partial. Sometimes it just means like appliances in the kitchen, like a refrigerator and all that, and then just a few basic tables or whatever throughout the apartment, but really not very much furnished. Sometimes that'll be like partially furnished, they'll call that. Okay, try and get a fully furnished place if you can. It's not the easiest thing in the world, I'll admit. We got lucky here. We found a place that's fully furnished, and that's not typical, and especially with a house. It's going to be more feasible and more easier to find with a condo or an apartment than it is with a house. I'll tell you that right now. So anyway, so obviously the benefits are, you don't have to buy a bunch of furniture, right? And then you're gonna have to either wind up moving that furniture, when you move eventually, right? Or in the worst case scenario, what if you're here, and then you decide you don't want to live here anymore? You don't want to, even after a year, 2 years, whatever it is. You hear these stories of guys coming here after short periods of time, and then they're just like, no, I can't, this ain't for me, right? Well, obviously, if they were here for 6 months, for example, and they were in a furnished apartment, hey, no harm done. You know what I mean? Like, you got nothing. You don't have to worry about selling furniture and all that because you're going somewhere else, or, you're just set. You just leave. You end your lease or whatever, and you're done, So that's obviously the number one positive about it, especially, like I said, if you're coming here to live, for the first time, right? Like it's not like you're already here for 5 years and you know that you're going to live here forever, and all that. Then, maybe there's that's a different ball game, right? But anyway, but like I said, with an apartment, now the only drawbacks of this, okay, of a furnished apartment is that you could, a lot of times here, the landlords will want to get at least, 1 month security deposit and then the first month's rent. But sometimes you'll have to come up with 3 months total. In other words, 2 months security deposit and of course your first month's rent. Now you might be able to negotiate toward the end of that lease, however long you're at that place, and you might say, hey, one of those two security deposits, maybe we can use one of them for my last month's rent. You know what I mean? And then, you still got that 1 month security deposit, and it depends on, the landlord, I guess. It depends on maybe the agent, if you have an agent that you're using, and the reason I say this is because, with a furnished apartment, there's going to be some wear and tear on that furniture while you were living here, while you're living in your apartment with that furniture, especially the longer you're there, the more wear and tear there's going to be. So there could very well be a situation where at the end of your term, however long that is, if it's 1 year, if it's 3 years, if it's whatever, your landlord could say, hey, because of the damage here and there and there, I'm going to have to keep your security deposit, which is like you're talking 1 month's rent. Okay. So just don't be shocked about that, Now, the good thing about being in a lease for a long time, like let's say you're in one place for whatever, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Well, and then, if let's say they do keep your 1 month security deposit. Well, 1 month's rent divided up, over 5 years is not a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a big deal, $500, $400, $600, whatever it is. But if you've been living there for 5 years, that's not a lot of money per year, or even per month, if you want to break it down that far, right? So, so that's just something to think about, right? And so really that, as far as apartments and condos go, I mean, like I said, man, if you could find a fully furnished, with beds in the bedrooms and, couch and coffee tables and, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Armoires or portable closets like you see behind me. You could find a place like that, it's a good find, and you're, like I said, you're a lot more likely to find that with an apartment or condo than you are with a house, Now, if you're renting a house here from the get-go, and you are kind of like, after maybe, a year or so, it really looks like you're going to want to stay here. And whether you stay renting that particular house or maybe you find another house to rent, in that situation, you might want to, it's not a bad idea to buy your own furniture. You know what I mean? If you're locked in on a house and you're like, hey, I like this, and I want to stay here, then, you might want to get your own furniture because, okay, so if you go to another house, you just have to move it. They do have movers here. You know what I mean? Like, especially in Manila, Quezon City area, I'm sure in Cebu, any city in the Philippines, they're going to have moving companies just like they have in the U.S., And there's not going to be a ton of them. There's probably just a franchise of them, I think JT Movers is over here, where we're at. I think it's JT. And, so you could just hire one of those, or if you got your own vehicle, if you got a truck, you're one of these guys that, you got money and you want to, when you're living here, you want to buy your own truck or, pickup truck or something like that. Well, then I suppose you can move yourself, Maybe you might try and get a few friends to help you or whatever, and you can do that. So with houses, it's a little different, the mindset, you know what I mean? Like, you could buy furniture, but I tell you what, I still think it's a good idea if you're in your very first rental here, right? Coming here to live initially for the first time, even if it's a house, to try and find at least a partially furnished house. You know what I mean? So you don't get too heavily invested in having to buy stuff, furniture and all that, before you really know that you're going to want to stay here, So that's my take on it. That's my advice. Yeah, and especially with houses, it always has more of a feeling of permanence, sort of, right? Like a house, if you're renting a house. So, I guess the furniture is a little more important. It's going to be bigger, probably, than an apartment. So, it's a little bit different scenario. But with a condo or whatever, apartment, I mean, it's nice to have a furnished place. You know what I mean? Like it really is. I mean, unless the furniture is just totally nasty, you know, like you know what I mean, like just total crap, you know. Well, then you know you might have to think about that. You know, well they do have furniture rental places, I think in Manila, but I don't know if that's a good idea. It's not. I don't think it's cheap. You know what I mean? Like it's probably cheaper than it is in the U.S., but it's per the cost of living here, it's not really cheap. So anyway, that's my take on it, guys. I just thought I'd make this video on it, give you guys some information, and I hope you guys have a great day. Please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already done so. I really do appreciate it when you do. And send a comment too, All right, thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you later.